Yep, we're good to go, thanks.
Great, thank you very much. Right. Good morning, everyone. My name is Mark Thomas from Vale Glamorgan Democratic Services, and welcome to the extraordinary meeting of the Shared Regulatory Services Committee on Wednesday, 19th of February at 10 a.m. Before I hand over to the chair, I'm going to go through some housekeeping and a general introduction. May I remind everyone present that the meeting is being live streamed as well as recorded via the internet, and this recording will be archived for future viewing. If a participant wishes to speak, can they please raise their hand using the remote hand raise hand function. When invited to address the committee by the chair, please could all participants ensure that their microphone and camera is on to ensure that they can be seen and heard when actively participating in the meeting. Please ensure that all debate is raised verbally and not via the chat function for the sake of the recording. The chat function is for any sort of technical issues if you need to raise that with myself or my colleague or with the chair. So following that, please could I welcome all committee members and officers, and also to anyone watching the live meeting broadcast. And I'll now hand over to the chair for the main business of the meeting. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Mark, and welcome everybody to the meeting. Part one of the agenda, we have apologies for absence as item 1, and we've received apologies from Councillor Michael of Cardiff. I don't believe there's any other apologies.
No other apologies, Chair. I believe we have everyone else from the other authorities at the meeting. Is only Councillor Michael's apologies.
Lovely, thank you. Minutes of meeting held, item 2, minutes of meeting held on the 18th of December 2024. Any issues with the minutes? Are we happy to agree them?
I'll move, Chair.
I'll second that, Chair.
Excellent, thank you very much. We'll take those as okay then. And at this meeting, I don't think we're going through any items arising from the minutes. And item 3 then is to receive declaration of interest and the nature of such interest under the Council's Code of Conduct. We got any declarations, please? No? Excellent, lovely. And so we just go on to the report. So we just one report to consider in today's extraordinary meeting, and that's the report of the Head of Finance, Shared Regulatory Services, Draft Budget Proposal 2025-26. So we got Gemma who's going to lead us through the report. And yeah.
Good morning.
Thanks,
thank
Gemma.
you. Thank you. I'm hoping Liz would be okay to share my slides for me, please.
Bear with us, Gemma. We'll get that sorted now.
No problem. Thank you ever so much. So just as kind of by way of introduction, obviously we came back before Christmas, setting out various options and some of the cost pressures that we had within the SRS for 25-26 to consider for budget setting. Obviously, since then, we've had the provisional settlement for local authorities, and we're set to receive the final settlement. I think whilst still really challenging, the provisional settlement was slightly more favourable than we had anticipated as authorities, and we have good prospects for a slightly improved position, certainly from a Vale and Bridgend perspective, for the final settlement. I think also in terms of outlining the some of the challenges that meeting those savings proposals would have in terms of service delivery. Obviously, that has been considered by local authorities as well as part of the budget setting. Sorry, Liz. Do you want me to try and share myself?
It doesn't seem to be working at my end, unfortunately, Gemma. If you could try yourself, that'd be really helpful. Thank you.
I'll Okay, I'll try now. No problem. I just
Yeah. Any issues, Gemma? I'll try my side. Just if you
Okay,
can try
lovely,
it
thank
first, and
you.
if not, I'll have a go as well. All right. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Mm, No, unfortunately, it's not doing anything. It just kind of goes green when I press share screen. It doesn't do anything. I'll just talk through the slides for now. So the slides don't have any information that aren't in the report, but the budget that you have before you, the proposed budget for 25-26, is following discussion with Section 151 officers, predicated on an essentially a standstill budget after taking account for the difference in the pay award for 24-25. So there are tables in the report that set out the overall proposed budget for 25-26, which totals 8.838 million. And then also that split between the core budget for 25-26, which totals 6.134 million, and the authority specific element of that budget, which totals 2.704 million. In terms of those movements by local authority, there has been some reallocation in terms of those costs between core and authority specific. Which is set out in terms of those budget adjustments. And we also have changes because of the adjustment to apportion the cost by population. And members may recall from the outturn report and the audit report last year that we had been using IBA as a kind of proxy for population for a couple of years, which obviously isn't in line with the joint working agreement. So we've reverted back to that population apportionment for 25-26. So in terms of the budget adjustments, we have a small budget adjustment that reflects that 24-25 pay award shortfall, so the difference between the provision for the pay award and what it ended up being. So that's 39,000. The pay award increase for 25-26, estimated based on a 3% increase, is 245,000. But what this budget assumes is that that would be matched by savings, so an equivalent 245,000, and then some additional authority-specific savings that have been agreed directly with Bridgend Council, and that totals 14k, and that reflects some of that underspend that we've been seeing against the authority-specific budget for Bridgend. So that takes us to our 8.838 million. And in terms of that pay award split, assuming 3%, and obviously, we don't yet know how that is going to go in terms of those pay negotiations for 25-26.
Sorry, Gem. I've just managed to get the slides up. Shall I flick through the slides quickly
Yeah, if you
now
could go to
relevant
slide
bit?
4, Mark, that would be awesome. Thank you ever so much.
Right, where are we at? Sorry, Gem.
Yeah, slide 4. So if you just go back one.
Right, hang on, bear with me a second.
Oh, no, stay there. So we can catch you there at core budget summary, because that's my next slide.
Okay, thanks.
So,
Thanks.
so this slide then just sets out then that core authority, core budget split by authority, and shows those updated proportions. And you'll see that movement based on changing population figures, but also that correction of that historic apportionment by IBA. So you'll see there's a reduction for Bridgend of 96,000 and an increase for both Cardiff and the Vale of Glamorgan. So 64,000 increase for Vale of Glamorgan and 46,000 increase for Cardiff. And if we could go on to the next slide, please. Sorry, Mark, are you able to go on to the next? Oh, brilliant, thank you. And then this just sets out that position for authority specific, and it also references that review of staffing allocation. So we've got a slight change, which is why you've got bottom line adjustment figures here for the split between authority specific and core. And that's reflected then on this slide. But it also references that 14,000 additional saving that's been applied to the Bridgend authority specific budget for stray dog kennelling and vets budgets. and that's due to that historic underspend in the area. If you could go on to the next slide, please, Mark. Okay, so I'm just going to pause here to quickly talk about national insurance contribution, and then if Helen's okay to come in, obviously while this represents a standstill budget, this is essentially still delivering cuts to the budget for the SRS, because it means that those pay awards that are, prudent estimate for pay awards in 25-26 will need to be offset by savings within the service. So I'll just quickly talk about our assumptions around national insurance, and obviously that picture's still emerging, and then I'll hand over to Helen just to briefly talk about how those savings could potentially be identified. So in terms of national insurance contributions, obviously there is an impact on the SRS in terms of costs. Now, our current expectation is that will be matched by UK government funding that will be then routed through the Barnett formula to Welsh local authorities. Now, at the moment, we're not clear on what basis that will be distributed to Welsh local authorities. So obviously, at the moment, we're reflecting what those national insurance costs would look like if we apportion them in accordance with the joint working agreement. And that's set out on the table on this slide. So 33,000 for Bridgend, 96,000 for Cardiff, and 33,000 for the Vale. So obviously, the total costs across the SRS will be 162,000. If we find out that apportionment isn't in line with, the apportionment of, for instance, RSG and SSAs across local authority, but is apportioned based on employee costs, obviously, then that would mean that the Vale would expect to receive the full funding for SRS national insurance costs as host authority. So I think we've got a bit of a watching brief, really, in terms of how we treat national insurance costs for 25-26 in the SRS budget. So at the moment, what we're doing is we're assuming there will be a contribution, and what we're hoping is that we'll be in a position to update Joint Committee following discussion with the respective Section 151 officers as part of the Q1 monitoring, because I think we're expecting clarification around those national insurance funding streams in the early part of 25-26. So as I say, that kind of standstill budget that we're proposing as part of this report would still require savings to be made from within SRS. And I think relatively early days in terms of how they'll be delivered. But if Helen's happy to come in and briefly talk about how those savings might be found within the service, that'd be really appreciated.
Thanks, Gemma, and morning, everyone. Yes, so much as we've done in previous years, we would be looking to find the saving through a combination of deletion of vacant posts and ramping up our income. So I've mentioned previously that we've been in the fortunate position after years of not always having a full structure of only carrying one vacancy over part of this current financial year. We are aware now that there is going to be some movement through retirement, for example, at year end, so by the end of March. So we have got some vacancies that we can work with to realise part of the saving. And as I've mentioned previously, some great work going on at the moment to kind of push the boundaries in terms of cost recovery and income generation. So as Gemma says, early days as we formulate exactly what that will look like, but that is how we will achieve the saving that will be required with effectively the standstill budget. So very happy at the end of Gemma's report to take any questions that members have on that.
Brilliant. Thank you ever so much, Helen. So I think in terms of the budget proposals, obviously Section 151 officers and the respective authorities have been cited on these proposals, and on my understanding are happy to proceed on this basis. So happy to take any questions or comments on the budget proposals. Thank you.
Any questions? Can't see any hands going up at the minute. No. Thank you, Gemma. Excellent report and well explained. Whether we want to ask Helen any questions at this point before we go to the recommendation? Yes, Ruba?
Thank you, Chair, and thank you, Gemma, for that report. It's a comment and a question to Helen, really. I know all the work that's gone into between all authorities and headed up by you, Helen, to get this budget to where it is. One of my questions is around really staff morale and how staff are feeling sort of going forward, because it has been tough, and it looks like it will be still a little tougher going forward, and how how morale is really, and really to say thank you and well done to all the teams for working so diligently on this to get to this stage. Thank you, Chair.
Just to respond to that, yes, obviously staff morale is our number one priority as we take the next round of savings through. In terms of team managers, etc., keeping a very close eye on staff, because inevitably, as has happened over the last couple of years, when we take out vacant posts, then there is still an expectation of that work being done. And I think as we go into the new financial year, some of the themes that we picked up in the December joint committee meeting, when we were talking about finding savings for 25-26. Obviously, we didn't know the quantum at that time, but looking at possibly some sort of workshop and engaging with members about how we can better tailor what we are delivering in terms of services, because clearly as time goes on and additional savings have to be found, then there comes a point where we do need to look at exactly what we're delivering and how. So hopefully that gives some assurance that we're keeping a very close eye on staff in terms of workload, etc.
Thanks, Helen. I was going to ask as well about where you were thinking, you said you consider sort of increasing your income in what you've done. I was wondering what you were thinking, what sort of lines you were thinking along there.
So dual fold, more of the same. Our income generation work to date, working primarily with businesses, delivering training, etc. We've got some work going on at the moment where we have identified ways in which that income can be boosted, and that's sort of within current working practices. Then we are establishing ways of delivering discrete services, potentially to other local authorities, and that is another part of the work that we've got on at the moment. So it'll really be a combination of new income and more of the same, building on what we've done, work with business, etc.
And hopefully that might enable you to get more staff if that comes about.
Clearly, there comes a tipping point where we are doing income generation work where you can't possibly do that within capacity. So there may be a need to reflect on current staffing to deliver that. Yes.
Thanks, Helen. And can I thank you as well and all the team and all the teams, you know what I mean, for the work that's been done again this year. And, you know, it's difficult circumstances, isn't it, when we all look at budget. And I think we had a better settlement than we thought we were going to get. And that helped in some way. But it's still still tough out there. Yeah. Well done to everybody for the incredible work that you do, really.
Thank you, Chair.
You're welcome. Shall we go to the recommendations then?
Chair, I believe Gemma has a hand up.
Sorry, Gemma, I missed that.
Apologies, Chair. I just wanted to add, obviously with an eye to the kind of ongoing budget process and you know, an expectation that local authorities might be in a position to get more information about their kind of forward funding trajectory going forward. I think that the thoughts are that perhaps as part of next year's budget process, we would perhaps kick off the budget cycle slightly earlier, reflecting some of the kind of cost pressures that the service are exposed to and the delivery of some of those savings proposals, and also be looking for to negotiate with the partner local authorities around a kind of longer term, almost medium term financial plan for the service that would give Helen and the team more kind of surety in terms of budget planning and less kind of reactive savings, more kind of planned reshaping type savings, I think, as well.
Sounds like a good idea to me. Yeah. So let's hopefully we can achieve that. So the recommendations then, unless there's any other questions. No. Yeah. Recommendation 1, that the Joint Committee approve the proposed Shared Regulatory Services budget in respect of 2025-26. And 2, in accordance with the requirement of the Joint Working Agreement, individual authorities are requested to approve in writing the proposed budget for 22-26 by the 10th of March 2025. And do we agree those recommendations? Can I have a proposer and a seconder?
I'll move. Oh, sorry.
Fighting to get them.
One another.
Here we are. So we've got a proposal and a seconder, and I think we can pick which way we do it, is it?
Yeah. Thank you.
Okay, thanks. And that leads us on to item 5. Any items the chair decided urgent? Well, there were no urgent items under part 1 of the agenda. And then for part 2, again, we have no items under part 2 of the agenda, which is from the public and press being excluded. And so that closes our meeting, really. Thank you all for attending and approving the budget for another year. Look forward to seeing you at our next meeting. Thank you very much.
Bye, everybody.
Thank you.